Hey, it's Jordan. I'm live here, Chicago, nice little park, and I'm with Anthony Clark. We haven't seen each other in a while. You ran for Congress, 7th District, Chicago,
Yes,
Justice Democrat, I believe.
Yes,
Put everything you had into it and had quite the establishment go after you. Yeah,
definitely.
and a couple of students here from a local high school. They'll be chatting, smiling, and all those good stuff. But Ty and I came to Chicago because I think it's kind of like that, what do they call that? The eye before the storm? I think that obviously we have a madman as president, but this violence and this systemic, I kind of see it as terrorism going on in Chicago, has been going on for way longer. And just one number that I find staggering, like I said it earlier on a live stream, and I was like, I have to be wrong. But I looked after and I wasn't. The Chicago has paid $624 million, $624 million in police case settlements with families since 2004. That is $624 million can do God knows how much in Chicago.
Do a lot of good.
Right. Let's start with, for those who are unfamiliar, there was some pretty high-profile police killings in the last couple weeks here. You had a barber named Harith Augustus, Snoop, murdered. Maurice Granton, who was 24, he was shot as he was running from police. They shot him from the back as he was climbing a fence.
Stated he was armed.
Stated he was armed. His family just announced they were suing today. So talk to me, because you've been involved in the activism, I think around both. From your eyes and from activists here, what happened with those two cases, and is it more of the same as far as the police just basically doing whatever the heck they want?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, I'm hoping most people know, as we realize, the issues are systemic. So unfortunately, the issues that we're facing, the issues that we're marching against and fighting against, they're nothing new. Laquan McDonald, Officer Jason Van Dyke, his trial's coming up right now. I have a lot of friends that are mobilizing around that issue. So it's just more of the same in the sense of us versus them mentality. We have a state where our police forces are militarized. We have a city where essentially you have officers that are not from the communities they serve, have no investment generally in the communities they serve, no stake in the community. So essentially they're collecting a check. And they look at us, citizens of communities, young males, I know they look older than me, but, they're literally about to be seniors in high school. They look at us as, the enemy in a sense. So it's a huge issue, with Snoop. If you haven't seen the video, I know you have, but, to anybody, you need to look it up. You need to, pay attention to what's going on. Essentially, he was a positive member of society, a barber. He was part of the fabric of the Southside community that he lived and worked in. Had children, he was a family man. So he didn't fit that narrative of, gangbanger or, negative influence on society. He was actually giving back to his community. Got off work, was just shopping. And, if you look at the video, he was approached by an initial officer. He was cooperating, based upon that footage. He had his FOID card out. He was doing what he was supposed to do as a citizen. And two officers that were late to the scene approached him in an aggressive manner. Now, we don't have audio, so we don't know what was said. But based upon that video footage, you once again have to ask yourself, as a black male in society, what are we not allowed to do? We're in a concealed carry state. Snoop had his FOID card, so he could clearly own a firearm. But because of the fact that I believe the police superintendent stated that he was approached for behavior appearing to carry a weapon, but we're in a concealed carry state.
What behavior? He was standing outside the barbershop.
Right, exactly. So, it's huge issues in Chicago. The other shooting that we mentioned, they stated that the young man was armed. But if you look at the video now, when he was scaling the fence, clearly he didn't have a firearm on him. But he was killed. He was shot and killed.
I also want to point out, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at the video, it looks like they were shooting him while he was down as well.
Yes.
They didn't just shoot him as he was climbing the fence. They shot him while he was down, in no position to threaten anyone.
Right.
It was, to me, kind of barbaric. And then also they have, obviously, people see what just happened, so people surround, and then they start kind of rounding up upset people and arresting them.
Definitely, yes. The first night after Snoop was unfortunately tragically murdered by the Chicago Police Department, concerned citizens, community members gathered. They began to march. They began to try ways to raise awareness and bring a voice to this issue. And I mean, police were out there literally beating, peaceful protesters. You had officers. You could see videos of officers with their batons, literally just swinging them, without any care. So that's the relationship that we have in our communities. And I think why individuals like myself and others have to step up, have to mobilize, is because we don't have political leaders in our community stepping up and mobilizing for us. We don't have individuals speaking to these issues because of money, because of self-preservation. Many people aren't speaking up against Rahm Emanuel. I don't want to get too deep, but our former president, Barack Obama, this is his hood, his area. We're not in his area, but he calls Chicago home. He and Rahm are buddies. You never hear him speaking up about the, atrocities that we face.
And as a reminder, I mean, Laquan McDonald, Rahm Emanuel covered that video up and that whole case. He was shot 16 times, Laquan McDonald. Rahm Emanuel covered that up right before his re-election in 2014. Right. So you have, obviously, political corruption. He's the mayor. You have a very powerful fraternal order of police here in Chicago that the Justice Department, a consent decree that was just handed down, basically with police reforms. Police don't want any part of that. And previous reforms have, I think, 20 out of 99 or something were actually implemented. I
mean, there's huge issues, and anytime something was attempted to be implemented, the CPD. Perfect example, about a year and a half ago, they tried to roll out an initiative where they're going to hire, a greater number of minority police officers. So you had, black hopefuls, black males, black women, attempting and vying for positions within the police department. But something along those lines of that qualification process eliminated them, from becoming police officers. Because I truly feel, and others do, we need a community policing model. We need individuals that are from the communities serving their communities because they get it, they understand, they're invested. But we don't have that right now. And Rahm, I mean, again, he has to go. But, our aldermen, many of our state reps, many of our pastors that are tied into these churches, it's a money flow. They're all eating off the Rahm plate, essentially. So they're leading us astray. They're not necessarily speaking up and stepping up. But as a black male, that grew up in and around Chicago, like, I fear for my life, literally, every time I leave my house. Because
I forget, how old are you?
I'm 35. So you never know. Me getting in my vehicle and starting up and going somewhere, trying to help a student out, or, going to an event, that could be the last time I'm ever in my vehicle because of how our police departments operate. And, don't get me wrong. We do have some positive officers, but if we understand that the system's the issue, they have no sway or no say on what goes on in their departments. They're almost overwhelmed, and it's almost that gang mentality of the pressure not to speak up, the pressure not to step up and call out and hold your fellow officers accountable, and it doesn't happen.
I don't feel welcome in the city of Chicago. It's like I can't get a leg up. I always feel like I'm pushed down, like I'm suppressed from actually achieving my goals. Every time I walk outside the house, I feel like I'm targeted immediately by the police and all that. And it's like I don't feel welcome in my own city where I was born and raised, basically.
And do the police, like, if you're ever around police, is there any interaction? Do they try to talk to you, or is it generally?
It's generally asking me, like, what am I doing? If I'm with my friends and we look like we up to some, they'd be, oh, well, you guys, we got a report, when really there was no report because, like, there was no one around to report anything. And then I actually had an instance where I was harassed by the police, and then that didn't turn out well and stuff like that. Like, I don't feel welcome in places because I feel like I shouldn't go certain places because the police, I know, is strong there. So I'm like, okay, let me not go there because I know I'm not welcome or something gonna pop off if I go there.
You feel when you're black somewhere. It's never a moment when you're just like, oh, I'm human, I'm just out here, I'm enjoying myself. You already know that you're black anywhere that you go, and you have to always be aware of that before someone has to remind you, whether it results in your pride being diminished or it results in death sometimes because people just hate you that bad. and that's something that we got to deal with every day. You know, even when we out here being happy, laughing, and joking, you still have people that come by and they stare at you strange. Literally, while we're recording this interview right now, I've observed about 3 people walk past us and look at us like we're weird because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 black men, and they probably think he's in trouble.